Five. He got five. It's really interesting because I'm a not stingy but frugal person. Because I went to Safeway and I don't understand all that digital and all the different prices. There's three different prices there. One is the regular price. One is if you got the card. Or whatever you call it, Safeway number, and then one is digital coupon. Well, I didn't have the digital coupon, so they charged me like $15 for 6 candies. And then I looked at them and I go, it says $1.99 each, So I got refunded, and I says, well, I'll get 5. Because that's all I could get, right, with that price. And so it cost me $6. Oh man! But the thing is that I wanted to do something for our fathers, and I thought about, of course, what better topic to talk about on Father's Day than about what?
Fathers.
Fathers. I don't know. That was kind of weird, trying to get my picture of my father. And he was always manicuring his yard. Well, actually, this is my brother's yard. But he was always digging weeds. That's one thing I got from my father. So if you drive by my house, you'll probably see me weeding my yard. And people think I'm crazy.
I thought that was you.
But the thing about taking care of the yard, it is the first job that man ever had. Did you know that? Huh? Because God gave a mandate to Adam. What was that mandate?
Take care of the garden.
To take care of the garden. Now, you would think that, the Garden of Eden was this beautiful garden, and there was no need to take care of it. But there's something about creation that God wanted us to be involved in His creation to not improve, but just to take care of what we have. And so, that's one thing that I have, that I got from my father, is I appreciated the aesthetics of taking care of my yard. Now, if I see a weed in my yard, it bothers me for some reason. And some people, they see those things in the yard and they think it's just fine, like, the neighbors, again. Dandelions, well, little kids, they'll come around and grab that nice, pretty flower, right? Especially the ones that have the puff. And they go, and spread it on the seed. But you know what? I hardly have any dandelions in my yard. In fact, if I see a dandelion flower come out, if I don't have time to dig it out, you know what I'll do? I'll go over there and pluck it and pluck the flower and throw it away. So it doesn't seed on my yard. I have enough seeds coming from the neighbors with the wind blows. And the wind doesn't blow in Nebraska, right?
Never.
Oh boy. But there's another thing that we know, that Jesus was also what was his occupation? A carpenter, right? And my dad was a very good carpenter. He taught me things that a lot of people don't understand. Why do you do this thing? But one of the things I remember is that when you toenail, you know what a toenail is? Not this toenail, but when you toenail a board to another board that's going at an angle, right? You turn the head to the wood and you tap on it. And the wood doesn't split when you do that. Did you know that? How many of you knew that? Huh? Okay, there's some carpenters that know about that, right? So those are some things. And another thing was, when you cut a board, he had a worm drive saw, circular saw, which is the longer one. It's not just the round one. It was kind of have a handle like this in the back, not on the top. And he said, to cut the wood, all you have to do is, because you try to go this way, right? Most people, you see them, they cut the board that way. He says, all you got to do is turn it this way and let the weight of the saw to cut the wood. And it works. You know, it's really interesting about carpentry, right? They say you measure twice and you cut once. I don't know about me, but you know, I keep on cutting it and it's still too short.
It's the same with wheelchairs.
But I want to talk today about the Father's example. And we sang all these songs about the Father, the Heavenly Father. And the thing is that I want you to understand that God, the Father, has set us an example to follow His way so that we can be better fathers. Now, you women might say, oh, I'm not a father. But you know what? You can still have the love of a father, the heart of a father, in the way you treat other people. So you're not exempt from this sermon. I forgot to put Deuteronomy 6, that's why I was going to confuse here. It's supposed to be Deuteronomy 6. You know what, I take the old thing and I change it by just, and that's what happened. So anyways, that's why I was going to confuse here. It's Deuteronomy 6. Now that's a really important, how many of you read Deuteronomy 6 before? Huh? Okay. So, it says here, these are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you and to observe in the land that you're crossing the Jordan to possess. Now we knew that the Israelites were in Egypt and they were under this Pharaoh that just didn't like those Israelites because they were increasing in numbers. And he made it harder and harder. And of course, God wanted to deliver His people out of Egypt into the Promised Land. And so there was all these plagues. And Pharaoh was a stubborn guy and didn't want to let the people go. But finally they got to go and they're getting ready to get to the Promised Land. And God says, I want you to teach your children about the laws that I have commanded you. It says, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live by keeping some of these decrees. You see, there's so many people here today that they think that just by keeping enough to get by is okay. And that's the problem that we have in the United States today or across the world, is that people want to pick and choose which of the commandments that they want to follow, and the rest of them, you know what? I don't need to follow those. You know what happens when you do that? You know what it's called? Anybody know what it's called?
Hypocrite.
It's called idolatry. It's called disobedience. It's called idolatry. We want to worship the God that, in fact, what we're trying to do is we're trying to manufacture or remanufacture who God is. Now, how smart is that?
No.
Huh? Can we change God?
No.
How stupid is that, right? But yet we do that every day. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So the thing is that by keeping all these decrees and commands that I give you, and there's a reason why you want to do that, because there's some effects. You know the cause and effect, right? You do something and this is what you get, right? So the thing is, when you keep His commandments, it says that so that you may enjoy long life. You remember the earlier fathers of the Israelites, they lived a long time. Methuselah. In fact, there's that one guy that never died. A couple died. A couple guys never died, right? Who's one of them? Enoch. He did what? He walked with God and was no more. Man, don't you wish you were a righteous person that you could be no more? And God had to face death. And the other one was swing low, sweet candle, coming. Who was that? Come on. He was a prophet. His name starts with an E. Huh? Elijah. Right. What happened? That chariot, fiery chariot came down, picked him up, and took him up. Man, cool, huh? Can you imagine? Had watched that? You know? Whew. But everybody else has died. In fact, even Jesus died. But his death wasn't that anybody took his life. He gave his life. If you remember reading on him when he was on the cross, he said it is finished. And those words after that was, and he gave up his spirit. You see, it wasn't the crucifixion. So, they say, well, the Romans killed him. Oh, no, it's the Jews' fault. There's always this blame on who did it, right? But Jesus laid down his life for us so that we can have a relationship with the Father. Cool, huh? Hear, O Israel, and be careful to obey so that it may go well with you. Now, I hope you are taking this to heart, because the reason why things are not going well with us is because we're not listening to what God tells us to do and how to live. And there's a promise that if you listen to what He and do it His way, things will go well with you. Isn't that amazing? And that should be common sense for us. But why do we make it so hard? Right? We always think we know better than God. Oh, how stupid is that? Right? Stupid, yeah. And that you may increase greatly in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. How many? Only one. You're not a God. You're not a God. You're not a God. Nobody else is a God. There is only one. And you know what happens when we make other gods? We end up in trouble, right? Look at the time of the Israelites, right? God said, when you go into the land, wipe them out, annihilate them, genocide. Now that sounds kind of mean. Kill the kids, kill the women, kill everybody. Genocide, right? But why did God say that? Because He loved us. He loved them. And He knew that if they didn't wipe them out, then they would intermarry with them and they'll worship their gods. And so there's this God, God all over the place. But they're not gods. They're just called gods. They're an idol to distract us from who God really was. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Read it with me together, okay? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. You think all it has something to do with how we should be loving God?
Yeah. All of our heart.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question. Think about it really careful before you answer. Are you really loving God with everything you got? Then why would God make this commandment that we can't keep? That is God's desire for every single one of us to obey Him with everything we got. And that's what we should be striving for. But because we feel that we cannot do it, we just don't do it at all. In fact, we go the opposite direction. How many of you would say that? That's what you do. Go the opposite direction.
Sometimes.
But that's not what we're supposed to do. God is calling us to holiness. To live as He wants to live. Now, you know what happens is we have these standards. You know what a standard is? Huh?
No.
Everybody's doing it, right? That's the way it's, everybody's doing it, right? So it's okay. Who are you measuring up to? Are you measuring up to your friend or your family member? Or are you measuring up to God's holiness? Every day. Every moment of the day. Now, I know some of you are thinking of the things negatively of what you have done, or are doing, or will be doing. And you know, the devil's just trying to discourage you and say, you can't do it. But God desires that you live a holy and blameless life. But when you slip up, He will forgive you. But that doesn't, He says, do not let that be an opportunity for the flesh. In other words, don't make excuses for doing evil. But live your life that is pleasing to God, because God knows if you're faking it or you're making it. You might even deceive yourself to think you're making it when you're not. And God is calling you to a life that is pure and holy 24/7. Because when you lie down and you're sleeping, you think that it's okay because you're not doing anything when you're sleeping, but how many of you dream? Huh? How many of you have nightmares? Why do you have nightmares? Where does the nightmares come from? The thing is that if you love God with all you got 24/7, there's no reason for nightmares. And I talk to people, and okay, what kind of movies are you watching? Oh, I like thriller movies, ghost movies and all that stuff like that. Why do you watch that stuff? Huh? Oh, it's because it's exciting. I like the plot. You know what you're going to end up in the plot in the cemetery. Oh, man. So love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you are to be on your hearts all the time. Impress them on your children. What does that mean, to impress it on your children? In other words, you know how, when you're writing something and you put an underlined thing over there? That means this is important. And so what you're teaching your kids, how many of you heard that saying? Do as I say, not as I do. But guess what are the kids going to do? They're going to do what you do. That's just what happens, right? If you want your kids to live righteous lives, then you got to live a righteous life. So you got an example. Can you imagine if God says, okay, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and He did all those things? He'd be a hypocrite, right? God doesn't want us to live that way. He wants the best for us, and He wants us to impress them on our children. How? Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as a symbol in your hands, and bind them on your foreheads, and write them on the door frames of your houses, on your gates. Now, when you enter a house that person really is dedicated to the Lord, you'll see all kinds of sayings on the walls, right? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. God is in control, whatever. Make it important. and let people know it's important to you